Today we're going to talk about Mbox Case Management Console, which is part of the HSG module, and this comes as a built-in module free without additional license charge. So it is a very handy tool for many hotels and hostels or shopping centers to give guest access vouchers at a very convenient way. So if you have studied our earlier labs, we have really gone through a lot of labs on setting up the infrastructure. So this lab, we're going to focus on the guest management module, which is a very specific feature. And this is the agenda we're going to talk about, and what is GMC for, and what are the key menus that we're going to navigate through. So this lab is going to be a little bit technical or a little bit detailed. It's not really technical because it covers a lot of details for operators, whoever is going to give vouchers or going to manage user access vouchers. So that we're going to go through every individual details. So the guest management console, how it works, it is really is part of the infrastructure as a module inside the infrastructure on HSG. So today, when you look at many hotels, they have PMS integration so that the guests can log into the Wi-Fi using, last name and room number to log into the hotel automatically. Or there's public hotspots using email self-sign-up or SMS self-sign-up. So there are many ways for users to log in. So the GMC is a controlled way of giving access vouchers to the users. So especially is a very useful module as a alternative to the PMS integration, because the PMS is a very expensive integration solution, because most of the time the PMS vendor will charge integration license. So GMC stands as a very cost-effective alternative for the budget hotels who want to give similar experience for the user to log into the Wi-Fi without having to pay a lot for the integration cost. And also for some shopping malls, when they want to give controlled access voucher instead of allowing users to do self-sign-up, so that you can be absolutely sure who you are giving a voucher to. And especially like in countries like Thailand, for example, if you've been to Thailand, some of the shopping malls, because the authority requires the users to be traceable to internet access, so you go to the shopping mall, you have to go to the information counter. Then the information counter will ask for your IC. Then they will give you a voucher to get the free Wi-Fi access, so that the voucher basically ties to your IC. So the whole flow, this is how it works, is the operator basically will access to the UI within the HSG. Then from the UI, he will generate a voucher, which will be printed out on the POS printer. And then the user, when they hook onto the Wi-Fi, then they will use the voucher given to them and log into the captive portal to get internet access. So if you look at our components here in this lab, so in terms of topology, is very similar to the previous lab setup. So we basically have the HSG, which is also similar to what you see here as the GMC infrastructure. So the HSG AP and my PC here. So the only difference is I have plugged into a POS printer on the last port, which is ETH3. So if you look at the physical connectivity, we have the first port connect to internet, then the second port connects to the AP through a power injector. Then this is my PC, which is connecting to ETH2, which is POS3 physical. And this is connecting to the printer. So now we look at the configuration. Okay, I have actually, again, I've borrowed the configs from the previous labs. So, and this is very much the same in my HSG, except that I have one thing, I've added one thing, which is ETH3. I have configured IP address on ETH3 because this is where my printer is connected to. So I wanted to be, the printer needs to be given IP address, and I have configured a static IP using this ETH3 is giving IP address to whoever is connecting to it. And the printer, the POS printer, by default, you'll get DCP IP from the MBOX. So the MAC address of the printer is known. So normally it's on the box. It's actually at the back of the printer. You can get a static IP, and then you get a MAC address, and you can configure a static setting to the printer to map IP to that device ID, so that you know exactly you are giving a static IP address to the printer, so you know how to look for it. So the other, to verify your config, you can actually you can run a DCP list to see that this is actually the printer name, this is the default printer name, and this is the MAC address, and this is IP that we have configured in our static setting. So basically, the printer is up and running as well. So if you want to do a pin, you can actually pin there. Then you also enable a hotspot on VLAN 10 as per config from a previous lab. And the other setting we need is to set up the printer on the security Redis server. So if you go to the Redis command, you would type printer, you will actually see a few options. So you can either use, there are 3 different brands of printer we can support. Epson and Brother are the LAN-based printer. Star is a wireless printer. So you can actually, then let's say we're going to use an Epson printer. You can specify by IP or MAC address. So the IP is basically the printer of the IP. The IP of the printer. If you look at our config, we have already mapped its ID or MAC address to a static IP address. So that's why we can know exactly what is a printer IP address. Or if you don't know the printer IP address, for example, if the printer is plugged into a switch, assume in this setup, if a printer is plugged into this switch, so it sits in the same VLAN as the user, so you will basically be given a dynamic IP address. So if you don't know that IP, so what you do is you put a MAC address, you use a MAC option. You put a MAC address of the printer. So the system will auto grab, based on the DCP list record, to grab the IP address, and then you know where you are connecting to. So that's pretty much for setting up on the HSG. As you can see, there's really nothing much. The key is to add the printer. So identify the printer IP address and put it under the Redis command line option. So then you come to the UI. So once the printer is being set up, you have key in the correct IP address and the printer is pinnable. Then you can come to printer here to view the status. So it shows the printer is online. So you can do a test to check whether it's really printing. For example, you can print. Just try to minimize the window. So you can do a test print. So it basically comes out with a test paper. Okay, so that means it's successful. The printer is being set up. And my AP is also already set up. If you look at DHCP release, and this is the AP. And you can also, because the AP is plugged into ETH1, so he's getting this IP address from the management VLAN, which is the default VLAN 1. So that's why it's having this IP address for the management purpose. So you can actually telnet into the AP from HSG. So usually after the you get the APs initially start up, if it's a fresh AP, you will go to the you will set a fresh bootstrapping config, for example, for the AP. Depends on the setup, your architecture of your setup, whether it's a cloud-based on-premise or private cloud. So you just put a default config, copy this and paste into the AP. Then you will automatically register with the MACC. So in this case, I just use everything connecting to MACC. The reason is because I have already done the, if you look at the config, I've already done the rewrite. So that means when you try to do a DNS query from this source range of source IP address, which is the management IPs from 192.168. So he will rewrite and basically intercept the DHCP DNS request. And if you're querying for macc.runstack.com, he will rewrite it to another IP address instead of getting the cloud-based or rather the publicly resolved IP address for MACC. So in this case, I do a pin. You can actually see that it's a pin to my HSG loopback IP instead of the public IP of MACC. So that's how the AP now is being registered to my local MACC here. So the MACC now, the AP now is online, shows online on the MACC, and I have already, and configuration is being synced. So I have already attached to a config template, which is here. In the config template, it says it's going to broadcast this SSID and map to bridge to another VLAN, which is VLAN 10. And these are the other settings for this SSID. So all I care for now is the SSID and the mapped VLAN. So that means I'm going to be, if I were to connect to a VLAN 10 SSID, I will fall under the hotspot instance of VLAN 10 here. So that's pretty much for the initial setup. So now we'll move on to specifically cover the UI for GMC. So GMC basically is meant to be a very easy, user-friendly interface for operators to hotel operator or even in a retail, if you want to issue a temporary access voucher to your legitimate customers who have purchased your product. So you can use the same interface to quickly generate access voucher, for example, shopping mall or a restaurant or some other public areas, for example, exhibition centers. So the other way is obviously being an operator, you can always manually create accounts from here, which is pretty technical, I would say, to configure those from this way, because you have to be an engineer to understand all these settings when you are creating user account. So the GMC is meant to be a very user-friendly interface. So there are really two key components under the GMC dashboard. One is the access profile. Access profile defines what is the access rights for the user. For example, speed and the voucher, or rather the account expiry date or time, and what is the speed and how much data they can use. And guest profile is basically what are they info about the guest. So if you want the guest profile, the access profile can be as comprehensive as what is being configured from the radius. So that means it's essentially the same as the access setting here. So by more user-friendly way or the more non-technical way. So it depends on your business requirements, or depends on what are the things you want to control user access. For typical hotel use, for example, they would normally restrict speed and expiry date. Expiry date is basically the checkout date. So that means upon you check out, the voucher is no longer valid for use. So there are menus for you to configure what are the options you want to enable for access profile control. So you can control by time, basically is how much you can use, continuously you can use, and also the speed of the voucher. Once you log in, what is the speed you can get, and you can enable concurrent device. That means the same account, how many devices can log in using the same account. You can control by expiry date or expiry time. So those are basically, once you tick and enable the options, and you will appear here to the operator, so for them to select. Okay, so when they create the account, they will specify, okay, you just need to say what is the speed to give to this login, how many concurrent device, and what is the expiry date or time. So if you need to have more options in terms of speed here, for example, there's only one or two, as an administrator, so what you do is you just go to remember the GMC is really a simplified or the non-technical version of Redis. So essentially they're sharing the same database, but this is more user-friendly. So if you want to give more access options, for example, you want to do more speed control options. So everything is ready from the profile here. So again, whatever you see here, the options, drop-down options here actually comes from the Redis profile setting here. So if you want to say, I want to have more speed option, so this 1 or 2, remember we saw 1 or 2 under here. So what you do is, you want to have 5, for example, give a speed of 5 to my guest. So you just clone one of the existing, and just remember the format has to be this way so that the GMC will understand the profile, so that it becomes available in the drop down under the GMC interface. So now you're going to use 5, so you just change the access info. Remember we cloned from the 2 meg, so now we change to 5 meg. And so now if you go to the profile, so we have one more speed options, and if you go to the GMC, under the speed drop down, we have 5 meg options as well. So similarly, if you want to limit by, you have more options to limit speed, or the number of devices. So you can just copy from an existing profile and just rename it and change let's say I want to limit by 3. That means the same account can allow 3 devices to log in. So then we're just adding, so this can only be accessible, ideally this should only be accessible by administrator, not by the operator. What later in the following section, we're going to cover how to restrict operator access to this UI interface. So now we have enabled another options to control concurrent number of use by the same login account. So now this drop down gives you that option for you to select again. And also you can say, because there's so many other options now, each time when I enter a create guest account, I don't want to select because it's it's cumbersome to select. So you can actually set this as default, so that when it appears on the GMC, so you automatically this becomes the default, so you don't really have to select. So similarly, for example, I want to do a speed, so you can actually do a speed max of 5 meg. So you save as default. So when you come to the GMC, it automatically most of the time they will be having default. Unless necessary, you just bother to select. So the guest profile, you can capture and enter as many guest profile as you want, or the guest info as you want. Is also configured under the access config. So there's a lot of information options for you, whether you want to enable or you want to choose to enter for the guest, rather for the user. Depends on the use of this interface. Let's say maybe in a shopping mall you want to capture email or mobile number, because the more you enable here, the more you have to enter, and also maybe passport number. So once you tick and enable, then you will basically appear under here for you to put in. However, this, because it's a standard web UI, it does support using some scanners. For example, some scanners, they can scan the IC or passport, then they will auto-populate this fields, so that you really don't have to enter the information. So you just scan, you will auto-populate, then you just save, then you will create the account and print out for you. And when we create the account, there's also options for you to define how you want to create the account. It can be randomly generated, or it can be based on your certain last name or your room number, or it can be based on your mobile number or your email address as the username. And you can also define the password, how you want to create the password. So the username, it can be random, or it can be a last name or room number, or it can be password. The password can be random, or the random means the system will generate the password for you. And you can also specify the length of the username when they generate the password. So, and also once you tick more options, for example, maybe you want to use email, capture email as well. So you are asked to enter email, and then you can also select to say, I may want to use email now become available as my username, and random generated password or last name, whichever you like. So for a typical hotel, I will probably just want to have the last name and room number, which is most of the case. Then you will just say username will be the last name and password will be the room number. So it's something very easy for you to remember. So now this will be a simplified version of account creation by the operator. So let's say when a guest come in, you say, okay, Mr. Rand, and your room number is 111, and you are checking out tomorrow. Then you can just save and display. If you save and display, the account will be created and you will not be printed. So if you have a POS printer like what we have here, you will print the account. You'll save and print out the account. So I'm going to use my POS printer to print the voucher. So straight away it comes out with a voucher, and on the voucher it shows this is my username, which is my last name, and my room number. The password is my room number. So this is what's being defined here. Then once the account is being created, you will be basically you'll be listed on here as well. Okay. So the concurrent use, number of device login is 3, and maximum speed is 5. And also you have an expiry date. So if you're a super administrator, you can go to the user to double verify the user as well. You can see he's actually auto attached to 2 different access profile and with an expiry date and time. So that's basically, as you can see, it's very simple to create in the user account. So I'm going to do a test, just make sure the account being created really works. So just turn off my mobile data. Connect to the testing SSID. Sign to the network. Okay, I have just used any landing page. Right. password, accept terms, and log in. So straight away I'm logged in. So I can now do a speed control. I don't have 3 devices to test now, but you can test it yourself in terms of restricting the concurrent number of device access. So I've limited myself to 5 meg. So that's basically exactly what you have set in the GMC. Upload and download. Okay, it's 5 meg. So as you can see, it's very straightforward. And the next is I want to share a bit of options. As you can see, the account voucher is being printed and it's pretty simple, but you can, let's say if you're, and the thermal paper is very cheap and the printer is not expensive as well. So you become a very useful and effective system for some of the hotels or malls to give free voucher, and you can customize the voucher when you print it out. So right now this really just default username and password being printed on the voucher. If you want to give more details to the guest, you can actually go to the this tab to say, because by default again it's only the username, password, and also the title. So the title you can change to something that is more meaningful. So you can say welcome to Ramsnay, or if you're a hotel, you say okay, Manila Hotel. Okay. Then you can also add additional info onto the printout. For example, it's a speed, so that they know what is the speed they are getting. So and you can rearrange the sequence of the printout. So the title is always on the top. So let's say speed is the second, and you can also and also this is basically how this is a technical profile name, and this is the name that you want guests to see. So let's say concurrent use, concurrent or concurrent use or device. Usually they will understand how many devices can use together. 1, 2. So that's the 1 and 2 is really just to rearrange the sequence. And also you probably want to let them know the expiry date so that they are prepared. If they don't log in, they know that it's because it's expired. So you'll reduce a lot of your fault calls. So now I create another account, and let's say same expiry date. I probably use a lower speed, so I can just, well, at the same time I can test my speed control is working as well. So I just use Randy instead of Rand. So I just 222, and now I'm going to say the printer. I'm going to show the printer as well. So I'm going to save and print. So that basically comes out with something as per what's being customized here. So the username is Randy and the password is the room number. So it shows the speed and number of devices you can use and expiry date. So it gives you more information so the guest knows what they're getting. So I'm getting a 2 meg access. And now if you go to the you show the accounts being created and the creation date as well. So this is very useful for for owners when you have many operators operating the same console. So you just want to make sure they are not creating accounts for their friends to use for free. So I'm now going to do one more test to show that my new accounts being created is also working. So what I'll do is I will log out. And log in with the new account 222. So I'm logging now, and I'll do another speed test with my new account. So this time I'm giving this account 2 meg, so instead of 5 meg. So it's very flexible. It depends on your choice of selection and your business preference. Okay, somewhere close to what's been said is 2 meg. Okay, so that's pretty much for that account creation. And we have already covered the overview of the dashboard and also creating of the user and customizing of that printout, voucher printout. So the next one is I want to show the, remember you don't want to give, because the operator don't need to have access to so many other options in creating profiles that you don't want to give them too many access rights. So as a business owner or super administrators, what you do is you can create a profile called operator, for example, just to restrict access for the operator to log in to that GMC itself. Okay, so the base is always necessary for all the users. Then you will select Hotspot or GMC, Guest Management Console. So that's basically the profile. That profile restricts. This profile here is not the Hotspot user profile. This profile here is the access rights to this Mbox UI. Okay, so let's say now I create a user called front desk. Okay, so I'll use this, skip whatever password and front desk. And now you select profile as at operator and password. I just put front desk. And the entity is really not necessary because the Mbox is a multi-tenancy box as well, which is being covered in a separate topic. So in here, you can also customize, have your own company logo. Let's say M1 logo, for example, and then you just create the user. And the rights will be, these rights is pretty irrelevant to GMC, but you just say read only. Then now I will log in with the operator to access to the GMC. Okay, and the logo, you can have something better than this. So they are really they cannot go and create additional speed profile. They cannot go and create additional access concurrent device restriction. So they will really just have to create accounts. And if you have a scanner, you will auto pop up this portion of the screen. And also if you create whatever account has been created by you, you will appear down here. Remember just now in a list, I created 2 accounts because now the operator cannot see this one is because those accounts were created by the super admin. So now I would just create one more account using the front desk just for the test. So let's say RansNet and 111. Okay, then you would just, again, I'll just print it. So I get this voucher automatically created. Okay, then your whatever account being created by this user now list down here. Okay, so as a super administrator, so now if you want to check the front desk, how many accounts they have created and at what time, you can actually log in to here if you want, or you can, because you can, sorry, this is for your own account, you can actually go to the user and you can actually see the accounts being created, and this is created by on which date, and if you want to say created by who, you can actually creation date, just keep on populating the information. Or I'll just show all. Okay, so there was a column which I don't see here for now, but you can try that later. It shows who created this user. Okay, so you can try that yourself. I don't see it under the column, but I think I can see it in other place, which I kind of forget. So you can try it yourself. So that's pretty much for the GMC today, and please do spend some time to practice yourself. And if you have any queries, send an email to support@rensnet.com, and we'll be there to help you. Thank you very much for watching today, and I'll see you again next week.